A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. After the 5,000 had eaten and were satisfied, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and precede him to the other side toward Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd. And when he had taken leave of them, he went off to a mountain to pray. When it was evening, the boat was far out on the sea, and he was alone on the shore. Then he saw that they were tossed about while rowing, for the wind was against them. About the fourth watch of the night, he came forward them, walking on the sea. He meant to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out. They had all seen him and were terrified. But at once he spoke to them. "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." He got into the boat with them, and the wind died down. They were completely astounded. They had not understood the incident of the loaves. On the contrary, their hearts were hardened. The Gospel of the Lord. Today, Father Manuel started the Mass talking about St. Andres Bessette. And I thought it was interesting, St. Andre Bessette was a porter. And we probably don't hear that word used a lot anymore. But a porter had a really important job. In Portuguese, the word for door is porta. In my growing up, my mom used to always say, quite angrily, "Fecha a porta," which means close the door. It seems like kids are always leaving the door open. The big problem in times past wasn't closing the door as much as opening the door. The doors were huge, and the hinges were often, of course, made of steel, and they had to hold this massive door up. And so the hinges were really, really hard to move. It took someone of considerable strength to open the door. And so anytime you would have a function where a door had to be open and closed, well, you wouldn't have your guests do it. You would have the porter do it. That's why growing up, I was always told that a gentleman always opens the door. And that comes from ancient times where men would strongly and forcefully have to pull open a heavy door. And so we have this wonderful act. Now, this is so important. We don't have big, huge, heavy doors today, and we have pretty good hinges and lots of shocks and pneumatic devices that help us open our doors, and car doors, for the most part, open pretty easily nowadays. But my mom still believes, and I do it still, we open the door as a sign that we have respect for other people and we love them. We care about them. In fact, the opposite would be to slam the door in someone's face. That means we don't care for them. We don't love them. And so today, as we look at Saint Andreas, the porter. I want to say Saint Porter. He's not Saint Porter. He's Saint Andreas Bessette, the porter. As you look at him and his job was to welcome people. He was a welcoming person. He would open the door, so he was a kind of a manly man, but he was a welcoming man. He was a loving man, a saint of the church. He was a peaceful man. And I think he provides a really good example for all of us on how we ought to be. Because a person who gets there before someone else and kindly opens the door gives peace and love. And that's what we're called to do as Christians. In fact, thank you, Palmita, who did our first reading. The very first words of St. John's epistle is, "Beloved, if God loved us, we should love one another." Well, how do we do that? Well, as St. Andres, you could open the door for someone. That's a really good thing to do. You could help someone. You could say a kind word to someone. My guess is that a good porter, upon opening the door, might say, "Hello, welcome." Isn't that great? A very easy and kind thing to do. Our world today is full of division. It seems like every time I turn on the news, there's a new protest, a new reason to be angry. And some people are angry only because other people are angry. And so if some people are angry and other people are angry because they're angry, then what we have is a lot of angry people, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. And this is not what we celebrate when we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace. And here we are during the Christmas season. We're still celebrating Christmas, the birth of our Savior and Lord who brought peace to the world and peace to our heart. We are called to be His peace in our world. And our church holds up this amazing saint of the church who lived a life of peace and love. And he only did it. He was a porter. His way of loving the world was by opening a door. And I really want to impress upon the young people watching this. God is calling you not to do these amazing, huge things, but to do, as Mother Teresa said, small things with great love. And so I really want to encourage you, maybe when you talk to your brothers or sisters, maybe when you talk to your parents, maybe when you simply do your chores, when you do them with love. Jesus' disciples were being thrown about in the wind. They were afraid. They lost the peace that was in their heart. And Jesus, right when He gets in the boat, the storm is calmed. Jesus does bring peace not only to that boat, Jesus brings peace to our boat. Our boat in this life, when difficulties come, when the storms are raging, when we see things that may look real, we're not sure. They thought they saw a ghost and they got afraid. They were filled with fear. And as St. John says, if you've got fear, you don't have love. One who is perfect in love, that drives out fear. And so Jesus, who steps into the boat, drives out fear. He calms the storms. And so I really want to invite all of us here and those who are watching, you got to invite Jesus into your boat. You got to get Him into the boat. You got to invite Jesus into your heart. You need to invite Jesus into your home. You need to invite Jesus into your relationships. I think young people who have these thoughts of a boy or a girl, invite Jesus into yourself, into your relationships. Invite Jesus into your marriage. Invite Jesus into a relationship between fathers and children. We need to be inviting Jesus into our work relationships and into our political discussions. We need to start inviting Jesus into our boat, because Jesus doesn't force His way into our boat. We invite Jesus into our boat because we're tired of the storms. And my friends, I'm tired of the storms. There's so much ugliness and emails being sent and text messages and social media. The storms are overwhelming a lot of us. We need to invite Jesus into the boat. If we've got worries about bills and employment, big deal things, invite Jesus into the boat. He's the Prince of Peace. He calms our heart. He drives out fear and helps us to love at all times and in all places and with all people. Invite Jesus into your boat.